respect to threat detection, right, there are a few things that we understand that can be difficult. Like I was saying, you have to do a lot of analysis, you have to understand the environment. But in technical terms, can you elaborate a little bit more why detection is so difficult? Like, why are we, so before we actually jump into engineering, why is it so difficult? What are the technical aspects that a team has to look into in this case?
Right. See, in an ideal world, we would all love to detect every possible known threats and even possibly unknown threats
None
that
of the,
for an organization, right?
yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't live in an ideal world. So things are having a lot of variety and variability in the system. Now, when organizations decide that they want to be able to detect threats, if I go across every possible thread, I will not be able to scale myself in terms of detecting those actors. Whereas if you look at MITRE framework, or if you look at any threat report, you realize one very important critical aspect is that threats are many threats, in fact, not all in general, but many threats are very geo-specific or industry specific. There are some threat actors who only work against banking sector of fintech. There are some threat actors who only work against oil and gas verticals. There are some threat actors who work against healthcare industries. So when you are focusing on threat detection, right, you need to be very aligned to what exactly is the threat perception for your organization. You cannot keep going to boil the ocean and try to detect every threat or every TTP within the MITRE framework. And there is the other reason for this why it becomes more and more difficult and you cannot boil the ocean is because of cost. Businesses and within a business function, cybersecurity is always, or majority of the times, a cost function, right? It's not a revenue generator. So businesses
Yeah.
have to optimize their environment to make sure that they're using the resources available to them in the best efficient manner. And if I start trying to detect every threat possible, the cost goes significantly up. That includes cost in terms of people, right? The more detections I have, the more alerts I generate, there are more people I need to monitor that. Secondly, the cost of the platform that I'm using, right? Because the more I want to detect, I have to ingest more logs for that ecosystem. And effectively, I need to pay more for my SIM platform, or maybe for my, if my coverage has to be increased, my ADR ecosystem. So there is a very direct correlation with the cost over there. Right. And then the corresponding outcome of this is that if I have too many detections, then I effectively have too many alerts, and that triggers the infamous what we call in the thing threat monitoring industry is the alert fatigue. And not only in SIM
Yeah.
platforms, this happens across everything: EDR, XDR, you have cloud, everywhere you have this alert fatigue where you get too many alerts bombarded from everywhere, and then you don't know what to focus on, right? You might have strategies, and that's where organizations have to get mature enough to see that, okay, what do I want to detect? How will I process the detections? And are the detections actually making sense for my organization and my team? So there should be an element of threat intel that provides a guidance to organization. There should be an element of risk that provides guidance to an organization that, yes, this is what I want to be focusing and monitoring and putting my resources to. When you start into threat, you could say detection engineering or threat detection, the maturity as you go along the process will define all of these requirements for your organization, and it makes it more refined, more efficient for you as a entity to start moving in that direction. Okay, these are the bare minimum threats I want to be detecting, or these are the bare minimum TTPs I want to be detecting in the MITRE framework. And the reason is because these are the threat actors that are more focused to my industry, and my threat intel says the same, my business says the same. So now I have a very focused element. I don't have to go boil the ocean anymore then.
So they can basically prioritize it that way.
That's a prioritization. Unfortunately, while it's easy to say it on the podcast, it is not an easy problem. These data points are not very easily available always, right? You need to invest in threat intel, you need to invest in your vendors, you need to invest in your program, in your people, in your technology. Again, it goes back to the cost. The budget's not necessarily always available. So the business has to rationalize where do we invest all of these. And when you put investment in one technology, but not the people, then that technology fails. So again, threat detection becomes difficult. So it's a cat and mouse game. It's like a cyclic wheel of issues that we keep having. And it basically piles up to the problems that any organization faces. The maturity
Yeah.
of the organization will define, okay, this is how I want to be doing it. If you have good business support, your management supports you well. That's when you have seen organizations succeed in this building this entire program.